Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled mayor and council meeting for the town of Berlin. It's Monday, November 14th, 2022. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the executive session minutes for October 11th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Councilmember Orris.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the executive session minutes for October 11th, 2022 passed unanimously with Councilmember Vice President Burrell absent. Up next is agenda item number 2, the statement of closure for the executive session held on October 11th, 2022. Statement of closure. Okay, so the time of the closed session was October 11th, 2022, immediately following the regular session. The place of the closed session was, the vote was here in the council chambers. We moved over to the conference room for the discussion. Purpose of the closed session was a confidential matter under attorney-client privilege. It was amended in closed session to, by myself, the mayor, to conduct or discuss an investigative proceeding on actual or possible criminal conduct. The date and time that we returned back to a public meeting was October 24th, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. The motion to go into closed session was made by Councilmember Nur, with a second by Councilmember Nichols. Members voting in favor were Vice President Burrell, Councilmember Green, and Councilmember Orris. No council members were opposed, voted in opposition. Statutory authority of the closed session. The meeting was closed under the following general provisions of the General Provisions Article 3-305B, item number 7, to consult with counsel or to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. It was amended in closed session by the mayor to include section 3-305B, item number 12, which is conduct or discuss, to conduct or discuss an investigative proceeding on actual or possible criminal conduct. The topics that were actually discussed were the items that have already been presented, and no motion or action was taken. So up next is the approval of the regular session minutes for October 24th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Councilmember Orris.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the regular session minutes of October 24th, 2022 passed unanimously with Vice President Burrell absent. Item number 2 is a special Sunday permit on the OC Cruisers for Sunday, December 4th, 2022. We don't have who's running point on that. Mary, do you want to take it?
Yes, I believe that the organization found they were not able to attend this evening. This is a special Sunday permit, as you frequently ask to approve, for the OC Cruisers for an event at Boggs de Charoon American Legion Post on December the 4th.
Thank you. So that staff person should have been me. My apologies. And that is an item for approval for this body this evening.
So I just have a couple of questions again. These
Go
are
ahead.
process questions. This is less than a month away, but this event itself was already approved.
This is
a
not-
permit for the event.
This is an event being held at the American Legion, so it doesn't require town approval for the event,
Oh,
but the
okay.
liquor board wants the mayor and council to have approval on a special Sunday permit. It's a courtesy.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because we were, the whole 30 days thing.
This is something different.
Yeah, this is, okay.
Well, then if you look at the date of the application, if you want, you know what I mean? If you want to talk about the 30 days, we're well beyond the, you know what I'm saying? So,
Well, yeah, it's in October 24th, the county got it.
That's
Right.
when she brought it to us, was on the 24th, so it was too late for the council meeting.
right.
Well, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the application for the Sunday permit for OC Cruisers.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Orris
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Nur. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the special Sunday permit for Ocean City Cruisers for Sunday, December 4th, 2022 passes unanimously.
You know, Matt,
Up next is agenda item number 3, which is a public hearing for ordinance 2022-07, approving the amendments to Chapter 2, which are administration articles number 2, ethics provision, and our town attorney David Gaskell's running point. We'll just open the public hearing, or do you want to provide a summary?
After you open.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing for ordinance 2022-07 is open.
Okay, as we discussed at first reading, we're required to update our ethics ordinance by state law, and that's what this ordinance does. We're adding a definition for a quasi-governmental entity. We're adding a provision which prohibits the acceptance of gifts from individuals representing counties or municipal corporations. There's an update which prohibits the disclosure of confidential information by a former official or employee. There's a prohibition of retaliation against an individual for reporting an ethics violation or participating in an ethics investigation. A provision which prohibits disclosure of the amount of consideration received from state or local governmental entities and quasi-governmental entities. There's a provision which now requires the disclosure of a business, of a corporation which trades under a different name. There's a requirement of the disclosure of gifts that received from individuals representing counties or municipal corporations. There's a requirement of the disclosure of any relationship with University of Maryland Medical System, state or local government, or quasi-governmental agencies. And there is also a requirement to require attributable interest in business entities that must be disclosed. And those are all required by Maryland State Legislature, which passed an ordinance in 2021. I drafted those changes into our ordinance. I sent it up to the Attorney General's office, which represents the Ethics Commission, for their comments and approval. They said it was fine, and that's all I've got.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to the public. If anybody from the public wishes to address the mayor and council regarding the public hearing for ordinance 2022-07, summarized by our town attorney, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Public hearing for ordinance 2022-07 is closed, and we'll entertain any discussion or motions by the council.
I'll make a motion to approve the ethics provisions as presented.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Nur,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Green. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that ordinance 2022-07 passes unanimously. Thank you. Up next are motions for approval. 4A, number 2022-15, the approval of the Cat 2 moratorium extension. So you'll see in your packet, actually I don't know if they have anything in there. So there was an emergency ordinance that was then shelved, and there's a moratorium in place that led us through to November 18th, I believe, David Gaskell? I think it's mid-November.
Yes.
So we're still within that window, but the group has not had a chance to come together and meet. They need to come together and meet to discuss their previous points of consideration and determine a path forward, whether that's a recommendation of this body or a request for something else. With that being said, we're asking to extend the moratorium until the end of this fiscal year, which would be June 30th, 2023.
So, I remember when this originally came up, I guess about 4 years ago now. And I guess my question for those, what exactly does this do? Is this only in place to not allow a tattoo facility to open in town?
So I believe, and I'm going to summarize off the cuff, I believe what occurred 4 years or so ago, I'll use your timeline, was somebody had posed a question about starting something called microblading. Microblading, I think, was for the eyelashes, cosmetic tattooing, basically. And that prompted the discussion and inquiry. I think there was an emergency ordinance that was put forward to adopt the county's policy, which I think requires, once again paraphrasing, you to be a doctor, a medical doctor, in order to do a tattoo or microblading as it was requested. The council at that time said, all right, let's put the pause button on it, let's form a committee to evaluate this, thinking that there might be something at the state level that we could pull from. The discussion had two world-renowned industry tattoo artists on it, some citizens, myself and Vice President Burrell. The committee reached a point where they had developed some solid recommendations, but it required the committee wanted to propose regular inspections, right, to be proactive on somebody doing microblading and cosmetic tattooing.
By the health department?
Correct. So that's where it tied in the county's health department, because we don't have a health department. And the discussion was, well, what do those steps look like? And they're very similar to piercing studios, which already operate in the county. So the group was not asking for anything different. I believe, this is where it gets foggy, I believe a letter went to the county asking for them to entertain a discussion regarding this matter here, just in the town limits of Berlin. And I think that's where it kind of got held up. So the committee needs to come back. It's 3 members. This body has appointed those members. And that group needs to just come together, review the minutes, figure out if there's anything additional, new information that they need to work on, and then what the next steps may be. They may say, hey, look, it's too onerous. We want to propose that we adopt the county's ordinance. Or they may say, hey, look, we want to take a different direction and revisit the county and see if that's something that they're willing to take on. But that's for that committee to, I believe, decide. And this body has approved that committee. We just need to approve the extension.
So why do we need a moratorium? If there's county regulations in place, we could just adopt those.
There's a county regulations don't apply in the town limits.
Right.
But we could adopt them.
Correct. That's what was proposed 4 years ago in emergency legislation.
And then if the committee wants to meet and change them and alter them, then we can move forward with their recommended changes.
But to summarize, I believe this moratorium, the reason we took that route, it basically puts the pause button on it all. Does, in essence, what you're saying without adopting
Right.
an ordinance. And it says, let's visit this, let's give it a deadline, let's see what happens.
And that happened 2 years ago when I first came on the council.
Well, that
that happened
was-
4
yeah,
years ago.
4 years ago.
4 years ago, even further. So, I mean, it's
2
just
years
getting
ago
kicked
was
down the
when
road.
they-
That's what
I mean, I think that when you look at it, it is a time horizon, right? But a lot has happened in that time horizon. The COVID, the other side is that we've gone through some staff changes, which we're doing more with less, in other words. So we had this committee approved, this body approved, the sitting members here, with the exception of Councilmember Green, approved that committee. But we went through a period of time where 1, COVID, and 2, staffing, that it didn't make sense to form that committee together. It makes more sense to extend the duration. Now we have some legs administratively. Let's go ahead and see where we go.
So Mayor, are you still the chair of this committee?
No, as a matter of fact, you all voted on members. I'm not on the committee. As a matter of practice, I don't generally appoint elected officials to committees. So,
Okay. And I think as a matter of full disclosures, I no longer work with the Worcester County Health Department. So I just want to put that out there.
and I was never the chair,
And, I apologize. I apologize how you were. So
nor the vice chair.
if I recall from discussion, though, I believe that the issue came to inspections of these facilities, and that lies with the county. So what is your view of this committee meeting? I mean, do we have to do 2? Can we do a year? We have a set of new commissioners, well, sort of new commissioners, they may have a different view on this.
I don't think there's a problem extending it to the fiscal year. I don't think there's a problem extending it a full 12 months. But I do think we need to extend it. November 18th is just...
I agree, but I just think 2 years, we've done 2 years now twice. And I think that, I don't want to say that they haven't done anything, I know there was COVID, but I think that if there's 2 years allowed, then there's 2 years allowed. So let's...
Well, this is only till June 30th, 2023.
This is like 8 months.
So it's not even a whole
So
year.
it's not-
No, I think that the committee can come together, brief themselves.
I apologize, I misread that.
That's-
Right, I think that's what the point is, that, Jay, you're getting at too, it's time for the
Time
committee
is.
to
It's
reconvene and closure. So that's, if it was a year, I think I'd probably be against this, actually, so we can
And
get
Mr.
the
Mayor-
fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to make a correction, It's eyebrows, not eyelashes.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you for the correction.
You have trouble tattooing eyelashes.
That's just a
A new business. Nobody can prove you wrong.
Yeah, I think with the
Thank you
idea
for the
that,
correction, Councilman Nichols.
I think we're all on the same page, so it's time for the committee to get together. You know, I
Yeah.
remember this very well when Ocean City went through this a number of years, which led to the Worcester County ordinance, and then Ocean City adopted Worcester County's ordinance because there were requests on the table back then. So I would make a motion to approve it, you know, with the course of June 30th, as stated.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Green to approve motion 2022-15 and a second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2022-15 passes unanimously. Up next is,
So I'm sorry, I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Do we notify these, the committee, the group?
they've been notified. The former chair was notified.
For sure.
So, but the other members, yes, that's important for them. And the staff liaisons, just so you know, are typically the town administrator and the town attorney, given the workforce conditions at the time and labor.
Yeah,
We felt that it was better to put this on.
great.
Thank you. Up next is agenda item 4B, which is motion number 2022-16, which is a salary survey RFP. And our town administrator, Mary Bolin, and our human resources director, Kelsey Jensen, are running point on that.
Actually, I will let
Okay.
Kelsey.
So during the last budget cycle, you guys had expressed some interest in completing a wage compensation and classification study. So we proposed this as two separate pieces and put it in an RFP. We wanted a salary survey done, or the wage and compensation study, and then we wanted a classification study done as well, so like a step and grade system, so that our employees know kind of what they're looking towards, and you guys, when it comes to the budget time, it just makes it a little more straightforward. So we put out the RFP and did it in two pieces. So we received two responses back. One was MGT, and that one was in the amount of $45,800. And then we had PayPoint HR, $32,500. The MGT proposal, as I stated in the staff report, did not appear to carry the additional $13,300 in value over the PayPoint HR proposal. Therefore, we're recommending the PayPoint HR proposal at $32,500. So you have a couple options to consider. Move forward with only the salary survey component at this time for $19,000. Budget the classification study for FY24, and that would be $13,500, or move forward with both segments, which they did say was easier to move forward with at once, and that would be completed in a 16-week time frame for $32,500. After speaking with the mayor, he said, you know, you would probably recommend reserves for this. So that's what we have. We are recommending PayPoint HR, doing both segments, 16 weeks, $32,500 from reserves.
So just to add, this is not a budgeted item,
It's not.
but it is something we believe is vital. Also, additionally, our reserves, as you remember, this body, sorry, Councilmember Green, it was a little bit before your tenure. This body made the recommendation to fill certain stabilization funds, and we're comfortable as far as the financial position goes as the town. With that being said, $32,500 for the completion of both phases of the study by PayPoint HR is not going to impact our reserves, and I think it's actually a nice way to spend on our human capital. So.
And if we can get it moving soon, we are hopeful everything can be done in time for the next budget. You know, obviously that's pending things getting started and moving accordingly as planned, but that's our hope here, is to have everything completed.
And it would evaluate every paid position in the town.
Yes.
16 weeks puts us in March.
Yeah, I mean, it's cutting it very close, yeah. So,
And when you say reserves, Mayor Natalie, are you referring to the one, and I hate to use the term bucket, but the one graph that had, didn't we have an employee healthcare stabilization, what was that called?
I believe you're batting in the right ballpark. I don't know exactly what it's called, but your point, Natalie shaking her head no. So this is not you're batting in the right ballpark as far as the name of the fund. That it is for
It's an
employee health
employee
care
fund.
and
Yeah.
things of that nature. That is not the recommendation to take this money out of there.
So where are you taking it?
This money would come, I believe it's not stabilization, what's the, it escaped me.
Well, you could suggest to take it from stabilization, which is assigned, or unassigned balance.
The unassigned fund balance. And the stabilization is designed and it's meeting our policy that we recommended. The capital is meeting the policy that we recommended. I believe there are a few others that are within that threshold. I think we did the
The
hazard for storm.
disaster recovery, that,
Disaster
And I
recovery.
mean, I don't mean to be
So,
argumentative,
unassigned.
but why would it not come from the employee?
Because that is actually, and that's a good question, that's designed by the policy that was voted on by this group. That's designed if something were to come up as far as healthcare, like our premiums were to go higher than what we expect in the fiscal year. That's designed to help us mitigate that. So it would not be advisable to do that transfer. It would be coming from unassigned.
Kelsey, where is PayPoint HR located?
They are in Maryland, Davidsonville, Maryland.
Okay.
So,
And the nice part about, and you all have a copy of the studies, they're also available publicly. But the nice part about PayPoint is that, and we'll get to the question from the press in just a moment, the nice part about PayPoint is that when you review the two RFPs submissions, MGT's appeared to be more removed, and PayPoint appeared to be more of a conversation with staff and with
Yeah.
a review of job descriptions. Yeah, it was more of an open dialogue.
yeah, they talked about
Which we like.
focus groups with departments and stuff like that. So I felt like that was very beneficial because every municipality does things differently. So it's nice to sit down and say, what do you guys do? What, and they also know that like our electric, there's not many options to compare it to with municipalities. So they did say that they would reach out to private sector as well for certain positions. So I think that's great. So.
Okay.
Well, real quick, thank you for sending that out, that we can review it earlier. I think we have a question.
Yes, we do have a question from the
Just have a
press.
question.
Just name, we know who you are. Former Mayor Williams, but go ahead, name and who you represent.
Yeah, here's a reporter tonight. Kelsey, I didn't catch when you said that you thought the survey, everything would be completed by,
They were estimating 16 weeks for the total time frame to complete both steps of that study. So
you don't know, do you have any idea when you think they'll start? Like the first of the-
well, I guess it depends. I'm hoping
If it's approved this evening, we
Yeah,
can
we're gonna
reach out
reach-
to them tomorrow.
Oh,
I can let you know if you want to reach back out.
Depending on approval.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But with the
yeah,
holidays, I think given the
Yeah, that
16-week
may-
time, I would say March or April.
Yeah.
Just because,
Yeah.
I mean, it is the holiday season.
Well, and hopefully they, like most of us, hedged their bets a little bit and said 16 weeks and it'll really be.
They actually estimated it in the
12.
amount of hours, 260 hours, but they said they think that 260 hours would be spread over a 16-week period. So hopefully that 260 will be much faster.
So the recommendation is the lower bid plus the one that we believe is more of an open conversation with our staff.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve, get my wording right here, the recommendation of 2022-16, the wage and compensation classification study, to PayPoint HR in the amount of $32,500, coming from, reserves as the mayor described.
Unassigned.
Unassigned, excuse me, unassigned.
And I have a motion by Councilmember Warris.
I'll second.
I have a second by Councilmember Nur. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2022-16 for the salary study RFP, awarding the bid to PayPoint HR to the amount of $32,500 passes unanimously.
Can you comment?
Yes.
I think this is a vitally important process. I mean, it was great to read both of the bids. It's clearly one better than the other. It was really apples and oranges compared to what we're going to receive. There's the two pieces to it. It's that creation of the step grade, right? But then it's the classification that allows us to really, I think, formalize for the staff, what we could be expecting of them and what they could look forward to. So, it's not the first time it's been done. And there was FYOE, I was having a meeting with the chief last week, and we talked about it. So I've seen it. It's going to be expensive. We know that, I think. But there's bits and pieces that we can, I think the commitment is here, you know, to move forward with this. And I think it's a great effort. So 4 weeks, it's get the ball rolling, and hopefully be a big part of the budget talks.
And the other side of that is, Councilmember Green, is that this not only affects our staff that we currently have, right, but it also shows like a forward path for anybody that wants to join the town of Berlin. So, and I believe Chief Downing has brought this up time and time again, is that we bring on an employee, in this case an officer, and there's no, you say, hey, this is your salary, and by the way, they gave COLAs this year, but there's no path forward, you know what I mean? And the step and grade, just so everybody's aware, would be a defined path. So when it comes to budgeting, hopefully it'll help with us being able to plan fiscally a few years down the road, as well as a path forward for our staff.
Right? Yeah.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 4C, which is motion 2022-17. This motion is to nominate Mayor Zach Tyndall, myself, to the Tri-County Council for calendar year 2023. I've been serving in this capacity for 2022. This is a new thing that they're asking whoever is serving to have your group produce a motion. With that being said, when the topic of representation, the way it works is Tri-County Council is the county council for the 3 counties here, Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset. They have a municipal representative from each one of the jurisdictions. In the past, looking at historically, it's been done by Pocomoke and Snow Hill. Last year I was asked to serve, and I had a discussion with Snow Hill, Pocomoke, and we determined that much like any board or commission or new responsibility, it takes a couple months before you get a good understanding of what's taking place. And we believe, even though, and when I say we, it's Snow Hill, Pocomoke, and Berlin, believe that more effective representation at the municipal level can be done over a span of 2 years by an active participant. So the way that would cycle through is Berlin, and then it would for 2023, and then it would go to Snow Hill for a 2-year term, and then to Pocomoke for a 2-year term, and then it would be offered to Ocean City. They don't typically take part in that, but then it would restart that process again. With the understanding that we are looking for 2 years worth of representation, so if somebody were appointed for year 1, they don't get reelected, it doesn't then go to another person within that municipality. It would then go to the next municipality for a 2-year rotation. So that's the motion.
How often do you meet?
Every it's quarterly. So we have 4 meetings a year, and then there are also subcommittees. So
And would you be willing to provide a summary of those meetings?
most definitely, we have minutes and stuff like that. I can share that with everybody. Most recently, we weren't successful with it, but I think it happened 6 months ago, maybe, when the governor had announced the $10 million going to the county councils. We, Tri-County Council of Maryland, received $10 million of that, and the counties were going to direct that towards bigger projects. And in the meeting, I was like, oh, well, nobody's reached out to the municipalities. So they went back to the drawing board, reached out to the municipalities. A field of projects were then proposed, much smaller, but directly in the municipalities. Unfortunately, Berlin put a request forward. We weren't successful. Catch that, right? And so I think municipal representation is a good thing for this committee. As a matter of fact, we're also in discussion with Snow Hill and Pocomoke. We are going to convene a group of us, usually the chief elected official from each one of those municipalities, to go over the items that are before the Tri-County Council. So I don't mind sharing that with this group as well, and the work product of those meetings.
So on January 1, 24, it'll go to Snow Hill.
Correct. Well, this time next year, hopefully you'll see this similar wording used in Snow Hill for a 2-year term.
Make a motion to approve Mayor Zach Tyndall to the Tri-County Council.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Councilmember Green.
Second.
I have a second by you two decide. That was pretty close.
Because
All right, Councilmember Morris, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let the record reflect that motion 2022-17 passes unanimously. Thank you. Up next is item number 5, a recommendation to terminate the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, permit for Heron Park. And our Water Resources Director, Jamie Latcham, is going to run point. Steve Darrell. So,
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Councilman.
good evening.
We've been talking with MDE for quite a few years now about renewing this permit, and since a lot of the existing infrastructure has been torn down, MDE said we would have to go back for a significant permit modification anyway. So they're recommending that actually we just close this permit out after multiple meetings with them. So we're recommending to close this permit out.
Do we have any questions regarding the recommendation to terminate the NPDES permit for Heron Park?
What does that mean exactly? Just, we don't.
Well, I mean, even though it's still classified as a wastewater treatment, if we did anything there, we'd have to go back for major modifications anyway. So you would actually be resubmitting for a whole new application anyway.
Got it.
So
Is there a time frame associated with these permits?
we have to renew them every 5 years.
So could we just let it expire?
Well, that's what we're asking, we're going to do, is just let it expire. I mean, as long as you file before the day your expiration date is, it will keep rolling over until MDE gets their final determination. Like the treatment plant for Bottle Branch Road, which is the spray site, it expired in 2020. But we filed, you have to file a deadline, you have to file 6 months before the permit is expired for the renewal process. So we're working off our old numbers, but we just had it advertised in the papers for a renewal, and I've not heard anything from MDE, any like questions regarding the renewal and all that. So pretty much we'll just let it expire.
So we don't need to take action?
No, you need to take action. I think that we should have a vote on the record, don't you, David Gaskell?
Yes.
Regarding the recommendations by our Water Resources Director, NDA, to terminate the NPDES permit at Heron Park.
Motion to approve.
So a motion by Councilmember Orris, and a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the recommendation to terminate the NPDES permit, thank you, I don't have to say that anymore, for Heron Park passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Up next is a discussion item. Discussion A is speed cameras, and our town attorney David Gaskell and our chief of police Arnold Downing are going to run point on this discussion. Chief Downing, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. The reason for this discussion is to really go over speed cameras and bring it before you and just give you the information to make decisions if you want to move forward with something like that or not. When we actually talk about speed enforcement, we got to talk about the 3 E's. Engineering, education, and enforcement. With a smaller town with less officers, the opportunity to go ahead and do enforcement or aggressive enforcement is less. So with these cameras, we'll be able to have an enforcement component without officers or actual manpower. So we're going to go over a PowerPoint. Unfortunately, we didn't get the information to you beforehand, but hopefully if you see any questions or have any comments, go ahead and just stop the process right then. So really when you talk about it, it's automated speed enforcement, and the state is actually at the setup program. So when we have to talk about these things, we talk about something established by the state and state regulations. So state regulations was in, again, 2009, and really up there looks at a couple things that we really have to talk about. The posted speed has to go ahead and be one thing, and then the violation has to be 12 miles over. For each camera, you have to go ahead and have it reviewed every day, and when we actually talk about when they're used, you'll actually see that in the slides ahead. It's not something that's 24 hours. How much is the fine? The maximum fine is $40 state by law. $40 is it, and that price is actually divvied up between the vendor and the town itself. There's no points. How I know if I'm in a speed zone? The town itself has to enact those actual signs that say photo enforcement, and it has to be within a half a mile within a school. School is not a daycare center. It has to be defined by state law as a school. When do they operate? 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 in the evening, Monday through Friday, not on the weekends.
Year round? Did you say year round?
You're on,
Okay.
just not when school's in. And one thing you know, that schools themselves operate, beyond the traditional school years itself. Each unit is calibrated, it has to be calibrated at 6 o'clock in the morning. If you don't calibrate that unit, then you won't be able to go ahead and have tickets. So you have to set up a way for that to actually operate and happen with officers themselves. Our thought is who are working midnight, come, calibrate, and then we don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. How's the funding spent? Has to be spent on public safety. We'll look over what different organizations or municipalities do, and again, the council define beforehand what they're going to use the money for and move forward. Place on the cameras. The town itself can recommend, however, the vendor decides. Whenever we ever speak to state roads, that means William Street, Broad Street, Main Street, you get the gist. State has to go ahead and have approval on those. We have to have permits to be on those roads. Our roads, we have a lot more leeway. When we talk about the highway, generally speaking, it's no. Don't even ask. You won't be able to put it on 50, and you won't be able to put it on 113. To initiate the program, you have to have a town ordinance authorizing the use of the cameras. Attorneys actually review.
That's my role in this discussion.
And you must have a signed contract with an actual vendor. The contracts themselves with the vendor is usually 3 to 5 years. Once the contract is signed, the vendor takes care of all the processing, takes care of actually setting up the traffic studies and those things that can determine where the camera is going to be. For us as an entity, we have to have 3 roles. Program administrator, which is a staff person in the police department, a reviewer, which is also an officer. That means he sits there and looks at the different ones to see if it's the fire department and we're going to run in a call, emergency vehicles and different things like that. And an ombudsman, someone to go ahead and be the liaison between law enforcement and the public, generally a town administrator.
Go to joy, Mayor.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Does not have
I did
to.
say general.
Maybe.
What does the town have to do? They must erect the signage. A lot of vendors provide you with the signs. It's not something you have to buy yourselves, but the town has to put the signs up. When you look at it, some of the vendors, they incur all capital costs, all drawings, permits, equipment, maintenance, upgrades. In that case, no negative investment from the town. They're taking all their costs. It's going to be in the tickets when we go ahead and run, but the setup fees and costs, they'll go ahead and bear those. So, who on the shore actually has these programs? These are all of the entities on this side of the bridge. We actually look at these numbers, we're actually looking at 21. That is July 1 of 21, flipping all the way back to June of 22. If you go on MDLE.net, correct, Rob?
Yes.
And look at the web page and actually says reports, you'll be able to look at the years. And one thing I want you to go ahead and understand, case in point, Salisbury City, if we go back 5 years, their revenue was closer to $800,000+. And those numbers come down. Well, why isn't it a fixed number? Well, if the education works, the violations themselves should go down by itself. Again, when you go ahead and look at the number of cameras, that makes a difference. And when we look at Pocomo, they actually have not been up for a full year yet. So when you look at those numbers,
Not even a full year.
you go ahead and notice that. They already have reviewed after the first 9 months that we need to go ahead and reposition the cameras. So. There it is. You don't want to have that actual one picture to post on your refrigerator.
So the chief of police This stemmed from some questions that we had regarding, and it's probably something that all of you receive regularly, I know we do, complaints about speeding on our main thoroughfares. It also relates to our staffing challenges that we currently have with the police department and the ability to do the enforcement all the time and while we're within these hours as specified. The chief's done a great job of pulling the information together. It's really a discussion item to gauge whether or not this body's open to moving forward, or if you want to just put this off to the shelf and say, great presentation. And then I believe the subsequent question would be if you're wanting to move forward with these, if you had like a street in mind that you were thinking of, and then, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I think a vendor would come in and provide an overview presentation, or is the ordinance first?
Well, again, it says ordinance first, and then you choose the vendor, so I would definitely either say that ordinance would be first.
I'd like to just discuss this, really, great presentation, but you had said that it's, if it's a $40 citation, and I know we don't have it, but generally, how does that split up? You said it's split between the vendor and the town, so do you have an idea?
Well, again, all the expenses are pushed into it. I'm going to use Delmar since it's the first one. You have a gross revenue, and with them, they had $21,300. Then you go ahead and look at the actual total of payments and to the contractor and expenses under the program. That total was $9,500. That left $11,700 to the town. So when you go ahead and look at it, it's roughly a 55, 45 type of split. And just depends on the type of expenses. When you first start the program, your expenses are going to be a little bit higher. And then after that, then they actually go down. They push the money out monthly. They take care of all the building. Let me stop. Rob, what did you tell me? Some vendors, not all vendors. So the vendor we've actually looked at has certain things, and you can't assume that every one of the vendors does the same thing. But again, they take care of the billing itself, no added, administration on the town side, and they go ahead and do the flagging and those sort of things. But again, it's a fee that's all pushed in, and then they spit out whatever is actually left. So when we got there, look at the different ones, it generally looks like a 60-40, sometimes 55-45, but it's generally, to that regard.
And in your opinion, in your professional opinion, how many cameras would you, if it goes forward, how many would you like to see in town?
Where would I see
how many
and how many?
Yeah.
Stephen Gator High School actually on Seahawk would be at east and westbound on both sides. It's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. A lot of the other that's a town street. A lot of the other towns with 30-mile-an-hour zones. I think that Councilperson Nichols would love one on William Street.
No, yeah, well, yeah, there too. Come on, get to it.
Flower Street really would be very difficult because we only have a short space between the dump and the corner. The actual traffic studies and the review would actually tell those other ones. Main Street, and again, you would decide if you're going both ways or one way. If not there, Councilman Forrest would love West Street. So,
Dude, you just hit like 6. Let's get it.
Keep in mind what he said, it has to be within a half a mile of the school.
which every one of those are, but again, they have to do studies. Again, Councilman Forrest would love to have West Street, and when we actually come back and look at it, the studies are not going to go ahead and say West Street, because we sat there, we've done actual studies ourselves, and you end up with a couple of them hitting 45. But again, we're talking about 30, so 42 would have to be that magic number.
12 miles.
The other thing is when you look down this list of number of cameras, keep in mind that one camera shoots one way.
One way
So you would
only.
need 2 for each,
Okay.
1 for each side of the road.
Chief, you had indicated they wouldn't place one on major highways like 50, 113, but doesn't Salisbury have a camera on 50?
Why? Because kids go across that school, that road en masse. Again, you had people helping them get across. When you actually talk about Y Middle, correct? That is accidents that happen. And it was actually before a little bit more regulations, but they sat down and they justified that space. Seahawk, you could say kids go across the street, it's actually at an intersection with the light. There's no light. Well, actually it is at Arby's, but you had kids actually going at different parts.
And the recommendation,
State's already said no, so I think that's the big part.
and this discussion is not centered around major highways. It's 113 and Route 50 in the presentation standpoint is not even being considered right now.
Yeah, and that, again, I don't think that would even happen. Princess Anne stood on her head and jumped on tables to try to go ahead and get 13, and they don't have cameras on. They said, no, it's not gonna happen. We're not gonna let you put it on there. So I wouldn't, get locked into the pipe dreams when realistically, you know that they're not gonna go ahead and sign off as a state highway. Again, when you come back to William Street, Broad Street, those things are gonna be a lot easier to attain.
And
Well, the other part of it is, you start one place and you can actually build. So if you start with 3 cameras, you can come back with 2 more, or those sort of things.
And the other thing is that, listen to what the chief said in his presentation. You look at these numbers, it's easy to fixate on the dollars and cents, but the goal is to see that trend down, right? The goal is to get people to abide by the speed limit and to keep our streets safe. That would be the goal of this project.
This is an area where you want to see the money decrease over
Correct.
time.
Right.
How much is a camera?
Don't know. Doesn't cost
The
us-
vendor.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The question, those are good questions
Right.
that if it's something this body wants to move forward with, that we would then continue that discussion and figure out the next steps, whether it's an ordinance or whether it's bringing in a vendor.
Again, the vendor's not gonna go ahead and put a camera where they don't make money. It just won't happen. So again, if the state says no on one of their roads, that's one reason why we can't. And the other reason is the vendor says the numbers they're not justified. We talked about a lot of the pros, what are the cons? Well, again, some towns have actually put cameras in, Cambridge, and actually taken them out. Different thought process of new elected officials. When people come in and say, we don't want it. We have the citizenry out there complaining, I'm going from one school to another school to another school. They are the speeders. They will be the ones that actually are there to get the tickets. You actually have tourists that come in town and say, hey, I got a ticket in Berlin. You know where it's going to be. It's going to be on Facebook, correct? And they're going to go ahead and say, Berlin has speed cameras, this, and this, and whatever negative thing because they got a ticket. So those are the things that are going to pop up.
But again, I would say that speaks to what you're ultimately trying to encourage, which is people not to speed.
Right.
And then just my last thing, this was I was serious when I said great presentation. Can we get these, because I would also obviously like to hear from some members of the public, can this go on our website or something, so people from home, people that are watching can see it? and-
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Chief, I think it's a great presentation as well. I think I'm supportive of moving this forward to to the next stage. I'm familiar with these. The Salisbury 150's gotten me a couple times. I think it's around $20-ish.
40.
Is it, Bill? So technology's there. Of course you get it and you say, no, that wasn't me, and then you say, oh, that's my hat.
Yeah,
That's
that was
definitely me. But I think the dollars are important. But to me, it's not less about dollars and just getting people to slow down. We've all seen it. I never went in front of my house and said, they fly. Right? I'm not going to qualify in that area, but I think that it's a concern, and we just really want people to slow down. And like the point that you've made, just because they go up doesn't mean they stay up for an extended period of time. I think it's. I would support moving forward. If you need a motion for that, or just move
I
forward.
think a consensus would be okay. I'd like to hear from each one of the members.
I just have one more question. What's involved in calibrating the cameras? You said that an officer has to come every day.
How long did he say, Rob, for the calibration?
For the radar in your cars, you have 2 tuning forks that you use every shift to test it to make sure it works. It's the same exact thing. You're just going out to make sure what the radar should read and what it reads, so you know every ticket after that works. If you went out there and tested at 10 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock and it didn't work at 10, you can enforce the tickets before that, because how long has it been broken, we don't know.
So calibration of radars and cars, take a matter of 12 minutes at tops, you know, just smack a tuning fork, hit another one, and we have 2 antennas, so doesn't take long whatsoever. And when we actually talk about the actual annual calibrations, the vendor takes care of all of those things. Some people ask, well, you're going to have extra work. You have to calibrate. You're going to have someone up there vet the tickets. You're going to have the button. But when you go ahead and look at that actual time for us, we do stationary radar at a certain place. Let's say if we put one on Broad Street, you actually have someone there sitting for 25 minutes at minimum, or up to 40 minutes. So you go ahead and put a camera there for that period of time. Again, nighttime, we still have to go ahead and do it because 6 to 8 o'clock. But it'll actually save time when you do the math. Pittsville, Pocomoke, and Snow Hill said you can do it, and that's actually going to save you time in the long run.
Can we put one on Harrison Avenue? Councilman Green speaks there all the time.
We need one.
I actually think he said a mile, but really, they want you to have the nexus to the school. If you came back on Broad Street, we would try to go ahead and say, well, number one, we have kids walking to school and the school bus stops. So those are the things that you would try to do with every one of the cameras when you place it, have a nexus to the schools themselves.
Chief, what about billing, collections, invoicing, dispute of collaboration? Is it gonna fall?
Not on us.
Not on the customer service. Center.
Hold up.
So, go ahead.
What did you say again, Rob? Some vendors, and the vendor we actually spoke to, they will actually go to court. They'll go ahead and take care of all the tickets. They take care of all the flagging. And no clerk has to go with that vendor, have to go ahead and take in any mail, no tickets. Someone tries to give it to you, you tell them where to go. This vendor also has a kiosk that they can put at a police department. They can come in and just drop it right there. We don't touch it, fool with it. You can go ahead and do it on PayPal, credit cards, all those things.
You can have auto pay, Steve.
Right?
Hey,
Link your credit card.
Right on the phone.
No, so we've heard from Councilmember Green, Councilmember Orris. Do you have any feelings, yea or nay, regarding moving the discussion forward?
Me?
Yes.
Oh,
Councilmember Orris.
yeah, I'd like to get this up so the public can see it and continue on with the discussion and getting some public input when it's appropriate.
Thank you. Councilmember Nair?
Yeah, definitely move the discussion forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols? All right.
You just make my night. I'll even help you tune it. Give me a tuning fork. I'll be out there with a tuning fork.
Thank you, Chief. David Gaskell, thank you so much.
Quite welcome. And don't forget Lieutenant Fisher.
Lieutenant Fisher, thank you.
Thank you.
The presentation was set up by him.
Thank you. Up next is discussion item discussion item D, which is the employee handbook sections 1 and 2. It's a review with our town administrator and human resources director running point.
Okay. So I'll try to keep this brief. We came to you guys in June 27th with some very minor changes, more grammatical, changing, he, she, them, they, changes like that. At that time, we said that we would be going through the handbook more in depth and trying to bring sections forward as we could. We were, just gonna go as quickly as we could, but unfortunately things have been pretty busy, and so we're just now getting these sections 1 and 2 to you for consideration. Section 1 is more general information, definitions. Section 2 is hiring and employment. And so going forward, what we are hoping to do, if you guys are in agreement, we don't plan on doing a staff report every time because the language would be the same, but if you feel that's necessary, we can do that. But we would like to be presenting these at a meeting first, and then at the second meeting, if you guys, you can think about what we've presented. If you have any questions, concerns with any of the language, we can address it at the second meeting of the month. So right now we are just presenting you with section 1 and 2. and we are open to any discussion. I don't think you want me to go through every single change, so we presented a marked up version as well as a clean version, but I do want to say please keep in mind that the formatting, until we go ahead and accept all the changes and make everything perfect, it's going to be a little wonky, and the same with the section numbers that certain things refer to, where it says like refer to section C5. Well, obviously if we're making changes, C5 might no longer be C5, so we will go through and check those things as we go, but so basically tonight we're bringing forward general information, section 1, and the hiring and employment, section 2. So I'm not sure how you want, like I said, I don't think you want me to read each one, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, the language is there, the track changes is there. If you have a question, we can discuss that at this time. If you don't, then staff are available for those questions if they come up between now and our next meeting. The goal, as Kelsey said, would be to have sections 1 and 2 available for approval at our next council meeting. So,
would it be better served if we accept them in the meantime and present you guys with just a full clean version, or do you want us to leave the marked up until the next meeting? And
I'd keep
We've
the
got
marked
the
up.
clean version here as well,
Okay.
so I think they can see both.
Okay,
That way if somebody tunes in next meeting and they're seeing what's on
makes
this
sense.
agenda, then they can see exactly what the item is.
If there are any questions or points this evening, what we can do is add them to the marked up version so that it's obvious for the next time. So,
Is there any feedback for our staff regarding the employee handbook sections 1 and 2?
I'd also like to say one thing before, obviously a lot of these things relate to like legal matters and stuff. You know, we have to make sure we're following the law, so I would appreciate it if you have anything, we could receive those questions ahead of the meeting so that I can make sure we are saying the correct thing during the next meeting before we move forward with approvals. And as Mary said, we would put any of those questions you guys identify or come up with in here as well in the tracked version. But that way it gives us time to look over what's been, asked of you guys, so that I'm not giving an off-the-cuff answer. So, but that's all.
And for us, just understand that our dynamic's a little bit different.
Yeah.
When you look at the language, it actually, you go through a whole process and the mayor and council actually accepts them. For us, if we're gonna go ahead and spend thousands of dollars on a background and move forward, that review process is gonna have to be before we spend all the money. So again, when we do the conditional, you have to more or less say, if everything is okay with this background, then we're gonna be okay with the individual. Because it doesn't make any sense for me to go through that full process and then come back and say, hey, is this guy okay? And we spend all that money to move to the next process.
I think there is language in here that indicates that when police departments, regulations or policies may differ either by practice or because of the police officer's Bill of Rights. Obviously,
They may
it doesn't
supersede,
apply.
some of these. Yeah. And I actually made sure to say that during the interview process the other day. I handed them, each applicant, a kind of overview of some of our benefits and some of our, highlights of our handbooks and stuff. And I did tell them, if you were to be selected, you would be following primarily the police department's policies. These are generally similar, but they may alter, or they may differ in some ways. So I do make sure I point that out too, so.
Thank you. So are there any comments regarding section 1 or section 2 in the handbook amendments? Okay, if not, if they come up between now and the next council meeting, preferably before we put the agenda out, please pass those along to Kelsey or Mary or myself. Preferably Kelsey and Mary, because
You can send them to me, and I can share them with the group, but yeah, if you could send those to me, that way I can make sure that they're all in one place and being tracked, and that would work.
And what's the deadline for the agenda, like Wednesday?
We do post the packets, we aim to post them the Wednesdays before the meetings. Obviously, sometimes that changes, but we would like to have everything usually by Mondays, Tuesdays. Monday's our goals.
just so that you're aware, that's a good question. We give ourselves until close of business on Friday.
Yes.
To publish the meeting packet.
Oh, we
try to
really-
get that out earlier than that timeframe.
I will just note for the next meeting packet, we are closed Thursday and Friday, so Wednesday is the absolute
Yes.
deadline.
But normally, Monday.
We asked for it for Monday.
I mean, the earlier the better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Up next is agenda item number 7. It has 2 parts, A and B. The first part, I'm really honored to be able to present a draft MOU for consideration and approval this evening between the town and the BCIA for the transfer of parcels, for the 2 parcels described in the MOU to be transferred to the town of Berlin by the BCIA for the use of it as a community center. With that, if, and this is a summary, if the land is no longer used for a community center, then that land would then revert back to the BCIA, the Berlin Community Improvement Association. With that being said, this group, we began meeting regarding the MOU and a path forward for preserving the land of the old Flower Street School and the combining the parcels to about a plus or minus 7 acre parcel of property for a community center on Flower Street. And Councilmember Nichols and I actually began this very soon after we were elected. Booker T. Washington Lodge called and said, we're putting this property up for sale.
Yeah.
And that, of course, had people, rightfully so, very concerned. So the town was able to acquire the Booker T. Washington Lodge parcel of property. The Worcester County Commissioners graciously transferred the back parcel of land to the town of Berlin, which is predominantly wetlands, but it does have some surrounding land as well. With that being said, we're on to the 2 remaining parcels, one of which houses Shore Up, the other of which houses the old multi-purpose building, which is not usable in its present condition. So following the acquisition of the land, we started to get everybody together. It's many of the members that you'll see in subsequent requests for approval, which are the appointments to the Community Center Board of Directors. Councilmember Nichols, Councilmember and Vice President Burrell were also on that committee, along with representatives, both historical and longtime members of the BCIA, Berlin Community Improvement Association, as well as leaders from Shore Up, which runs the Shore Up program out of this area of land. With that being said, we've agreed to the MOU that's before you this evening, and with an execution of this MOU, we can start moving forward with some fun things.
Yeah.
So, Councilmember Nichols, do you have anything to add to that?
The mayor summed it up pretty well. I think the one part that many people who aren't necessarily quote unquote, and I'm just using the term, in the know, the multi-purpose building had also been utilized by Shore Up until it was no longer deemed usable. So Shore Up not only had the buildings that are on the site, but they also utilized the multi-purpose building on a daily basis for the kitchen services to feed their children. So once that building was deemed unusable, they had to relocate the kitchen to feed the children. So when you think of Shore Up and the vested interest, some question, why is Shore Up considered at the table? Because Shore Up utilizes 85% of that entire site, if not more. So their presence has been there longer than, I'm 47 years old, and I went to that Head Start in that same place, and they utilized that multi-purpose building not only for the kitchen, but also for parent engagement and whatever else. So when you think of Shore Up, when you think of the multi-purpose location, Shore Up and multi-purpose go hand in foot.
When you think of Head Start, you have to go ahead and know that the first one was in Berlin.
Exactly. So we were that first site. That's another bit of history that a lot of folks aren't necessarily aware of.
So this MOU kind of has a couple different spokes to the wheel per se, because it's taking a committee that's been meeting and a group of people and bringing it together in a more formal way. It's also taking 2 parcels of property and combining it with 2 other parcels of property to help our community in a very big way. The other thing is that by maintaining some stake from Shore Up, the town and the BCIA, the way that this committee is proposed, it will help the town pursue some other funding avenues. And I'm going to give my hat off too to former Mayor Williams, because this has been a ball that we've been trying to get rolling for a long time. It's not just a 2-year thing, it's a much longer thing. Dates back actually to State Delegate Ben Bosmus. So,
Yes.
So 20 plus
Way
years.
back in my younger years, like 20 years old or thereabout, we were talking about, this kind of thing and then some.
But, so it's open to any questions or anything. You will see that it is signed by the BCIA president, DJ Lockwood. This agreement has been vetted by our town attorney. It's been asked for feedback by our the members of the group that have been meeting thus far, and now it's before all of you this evening.
Excuse me. I just want to say first, thank you to Councilmember Nichols, Councilmember Vice President Burrell, and of course Mayor Tyndall on working on this and being on the board for this. It's the way it's presented is slightly different than what I had envisioned, but I do want to say that I appreciate and respect that the historical aspect, the folks that are being presented for inclusion in the MOU and the committee, I respect the history, and the folks that are closest to that history are heavily involved. So I think that's great.
Just
I do.
one other thing, if you don't mind. It is a little bit misleading. I put the members of the committee on the recommendation form, right? Skipping over to section B. But the members for the BCIA nominations and Shore Up nominations, we're not asking for approval for those, because by entering into the MOU, those entities will appoint their own members.
Sure.
The only ones that we would appoint would be 3 members, one of which is the mayor. It doesn't stay with a person, it stays with the position. That position would be the chairperson for the committee, and then there would be 2 members appointed through the same appointment process we go through currently. It just happens that we were meeting, Councilmember Nichols, and they said, well, who do we want on the committee? And everybody looked around the room. We were like, we have the committee all right here, basically. So it's formalizing that, and that will change with time. It's a 3-year appointment, but those people, it wouldn't always be a council member probably. So.
Thank you. And I just wanted to kind of clarify the MOU a bit. Really in number 4, and this is semantics, but the mayor and council shall create a 7-member Berlin Community Center Advisory Board, but on the agenda, it's the Community Center Board of Directors.
Oh,
So what?
that's an error. It would be the Community Center Advisory Board. So thank you for that. We reviewed that multiple times and we missed it. I missed it.
And that's all I had for as far as discussion.
Thank you.
I just had a few proposed recommendations that I'd like to see incorporated into the MOU, and I'll read these off, and then the council and the mayor can discuss it. Number 1, establish 2 phases for this project. Phase 1, the proposed committee that Zach is recommending, the proposed committee will research and document the history of the property. They will then decide how best to present that history in a new community center. And then you move into phase 2, where 2 additional committee members will be added, one from District 1 and one from District 2, in order to have an advisory committee that is represented by the entire town. They will recommend to the mayor and council the following: site layout, community center design, associated cost of running the community center, programs and activities provided by the community center. And then finally, recommend that council member Dean Burrell be the chairman of this advisory committee and the mayor be a standing member. It's time to use council members to spearhead committees, and Dean, given his history with Shore Up, would be an excellent choice. So I'd like to see those incorporated.
I think phase 1 is a good thing to add to one of our meeting agendas. And you'll see that in the MOU. It's discussed that there will be, I don't know exactly where it's at in that MOU. Number 5, the mayor and council intends to ensure that the lobby area of the Berlin Community Center will have a significant photo and text display depicting the history of the property from the late 19th century through 20th century, with the properties when the property served as the Flower Street Elementary School. And said history will also depict the contribution to the community provided by the BCIA. So that is in this, but I think it's good to put it in as an agenda item for the committee. And then additionally, and I sent this back in an email, but just so the public's aware, the representation for District 1 and District 2, so the advisory committee is represented by the entire town. I think that's a good thing, but keep in mind and Gaskell, our town attorney, can provide some context to this. This is an advisory committee, so they cannot actually adopt anything.
Everything that is going to be done on that property is going to be approved by the mayor and council.
Correct. So then the
advisory committee.
So then the representation that you're requesting, in essence, is there, and the oversight is, in essence, there by the fact that this body oversees those recommendations.
Right, and I'm trying to get, involvement from the community members, from those 2 districts, to be in a position where they can help make decisions on how this community center will shape. It's a community center for the entire town.
Correct. And with that, just getting to your other points down here regarding community input for site layout, community center design, associated costs, programs and activities, those things the committee has discussed. It's not going to be a committee-driven thing for that. Those things will be pushed to the public. They will be open public hearings. They will be surveys. We're going to have to bring somebody on externally to get and capture those things from the entire community.
Absolutely.
It's a community center, and this board and this group, and I believe this council, want it to be community-driven, not just a neighborhood, but the entire town.
But they will have those discussions that they can bring to the public and bring to the council. And I strongly feel that's important.
And I hear that. The other thing I will say is that the number of participants in the committee was given great attention to make sure that the group is small enough that it can do work when needed, and yet diverse enough that it balances out the group. So you'll see that it is weighted pretty evenly across the board.
You've got a great group, there's no question about it. And I'm just suggesting 2 more people for phase 2 where they can be part of this process.
And the last thing with the council members, and we brought it up previously regarding other boards and commissions, you'll see a pattern that we're not nominating council members for boards and commissions typically because it creates somewhat of an imbalance. Serving on some of those committees as a council member, you'll notice that members of the community may not want to speak up against an idea presented by a council member or a mayor or something like that. So typically, myself as mayor, I'm not on the boards and committees, and council members are not typically on boards and committees. With this, given the scope, right, of the group and the fact that Councilmember and Vice President Burrell and Councilmember Nichols have both been integral in this process, also bringing a wealth of community knowledge and understanding and representation of our town. That's why they are on this board. Do I see that indefinitely as a council member? Probably not. I think with time we'll see that change. The reason that we put the mayor on in the role of the chair, as a standing member as the chair, is because as looking forward with this community center project, it's going to evolve with time. And this committee is designed to evolve with it. There will be staff needs, there will be direction of resources that may be required for this. And as the oversight of the administrative arm, the mayor needs to be a member of that committee and capable of saying, hey, this is something we can do, this is the timeline, or this needs to go to the council.
And I fully agree you should be a member. I'm just saying it's time to let council members step up, take a leadership role. Other communities have done it. Ocean City does it all the time with many of their committees. And Dean, again, is a natural fit to take charge of this committee.
And I hear that.
Recommendation.
I hear that. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's aware of the logic that was applied here. So,
Councilmember Nichols, yeah, I was curious what your thoughts were.
So with adding, Mr. Burrell, for those of you that don't know, Mr. Burrell was the head of Short. He was the person in charge until he retired. So this was, he knows this project, this entity, as well as probably better than most. So that recommendation, I think it's a great recommendation. Having the mayor involved, I don't think that there's a problem with that, but if what the mayor is saying is the case, if as this moves, just like I said when we sat in the meeting, this seat won't always be held by me, nor Councilmember Burrell. So him being in charge now at the front, or not even in charge, but him being that person in front at the beginning, I think that would be great, because I mean, he does have a great deal of knowledge when it comes to the site, the history, and what has happened there up to now as a former Shorrock head. As far as the adding of the 2 additional members, my thought initially when we discussed all of this was, yes, I know that we have the advisory committee, but there would also be a time where others would be brought in to have some input and say as well. I didn't think that was, initially, I didn't think that the MOU disregarded that in the least bit. So adding 2 people, I mean, to this committee or involving them and others, right now we have advisory. I was under the impression, and I still am, that there will be more to this than just that. There will also be, I'm assuming, a board of directors and whatever else, and those people, everyone, and at that point, everyone gets, every entity that makes up the town of Berlin has a say, or has some input as to what happens. That's the impression, and I want them to be added, most definitely. I think that everybody in this community, everybody within the town of Berlin, each district should have some say, but like I said in the beginning, with the first parts of this, with the beginning phases, the entities were already present. And do they need to be brought in? Yes. For the rest of this, for the programming and what have you that happens out of that site, yeah, let there be representation from the other parts of the community.
The challenge MOU specifies a 7-member board.
Correct.
So if you keep it at that, you don't have the opportunity to add anybody unless somebody vacates. Now, Zach has proposed some great members here, and I'm just saying.
I've only proposed 2.
No, well, I'm saying.
I've only proposed 2, but the other thing is.
But as he's saying right now, currently, the 2 that he proposed are in name, well, they're by name, not just as council members.
Correct. So the challenge with the recommendation for amendments is that by the time we add 2, right, the board or the advisory committee is balanced per se, right? If we add 2, in order to keep it balanced, by that nature, we should add some additional members. Otherwise, it's too heavily weighted on the town side. And with that being said, these ideas that people can't be involved, that's not true. They're open to the public can attend, and it's keeping the work group small, right? So that it's manageable, so that we can move forward. The other side is that fast forward, right? We have 2 council members and the mayor on the committee. We change, right? So as we change, this puts it in writing how that committee is structured, right? If you take a position away, which is why it's written as a position and not a particular member, it's written as the mayor being the chair, because that continues indefinitely. And what that means is that group is not electing a chair. The chair is the mayor, and the chair understands the process of the advisory, should understand the process of the advisory committee, and where that power stands and when it needs to be taken to the entire body. So if you put other community members on there, and as these roles change, they will elect a chair that may not be a town entity, that then has substantial impacts in the operations of the town.
I'm saying if you don't put these recommendations into this MOU, most likely it'll never happen that way.
What do you mean?
The addition of
The addition of the member
Of
who's
representation
the leader,
from the other 2
it just won't happen.
It needs to, I think we're agreeing, it needs to specify who the chair is. Otherwise, that by the nature of not specifying, that body will then elect a chair and a vice chair. And that in time may be in the town, and that may in time be a member of the community, with substantial impacts on how operations of the town administratively may.
And specify how many members there are and the scope of their work. And that's why I broke it down into 2 phases.
Well, I think your phases are good, right? These are things that I mean, you bring up very solid points. The history, which is in the MOU, and it's something that the committee intends to do because that history needs to be preserved. And phase 2, we're doing a lot of these things, right? By the nature of it being an advisory board, it defers that representation to a diverse board that represent the community already. And it also takes, with the site layout, community center design, those things are not, we've been in meetings. The committee does not want to decide them on their own. That is something they want to open up to the town. They want surveys, they want focus groups, those things. So it is a community center.
But in a general sense, they can discuss the things, that's all I'm saying.
Of course, they may discuss, hey, look, we want to propose that we move forward with setting up an RFP, or propose to the council that they move forward with an RFP to bring somebody on for a site layout. Yeah, that's very possible. But that authority lies right here to the mayor and council.
Again, they would discuss these things, bring it to the mayor and city council. I'm just saying.
And they're open meetings too,
Needs to
so
be put in the document. That's all I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying.
So Mayor, I mean, I don't want to drag this, but you had said
It's an
earlier
important
that,
point.
yeah, you had said earlier, I'm going back to the chairman, or chairperson discussion. You had said earlier that with council members present, on a committee, the members of that committee may not feel as comfortable sharing their opinion, but if that's the case, wouldn't it be then, on the flip side of that coin, the mayor as chairperson could exert undue influence?
You're correct, yes. But the thing is that as this committee is looking into the future, right? And with that being said, a community center is going to have some programming associated with it. Look at the last point that Councilmember Nerve says, programs and activities provided by the community center. That's the town, right? So in essence, it's keeping within the scope of the mayor's office. It's saying, hey, look, what can we do? What resources do we have available? What's the process? How do you go about getting something on the budget? Who introduces the budget? The mayor. You know what I mean? It aligns with the operations of the town currently. But to your point, yes, you're right.
I'm not suggesting
No,
that
I mean-
any mayor.
Yeah, it would stay indefinitely. And if it's not being used as a community center and this board is dissolved, those parcels would then revert back to, by the nature of this MOU, to the BCIA.
Do we have a will for a compromise on this measure at all?
I mean, this isn't my agreement. This is an agreement that has been constructed by the BCIA, Shore Up, and Councilmember Nichols, Burrell, myself.
Right.
It is not a Zach Tyndall agreement. So is there open for compromise? It's signed by the BCIA
All
today.
right. That's
Your compromise would be with that organization because, and I say yours per se.
Sure, yeah.
Because they are the ones that own the property.
right.
We don't.
Yeah. My take is just that I think as the mayor, you have a lot on your plate. Honestly, I would just think that that's, you are the chief, we're a strong mayor form of government. So that's my point that, obviously Dean does talk at the heart, with the Shore Up connection. I understand with the MOU, that's where I'm a little bit of a pause, as far as, we call it the vice president, and then it would have to be reviewed at another time down the road after Mr. Burrell's.
And we re-elect the vice president every 2 years.
Right.
So then how do you write that in? You know what I mean? It's challenging. And to your point, the plate of the mayor is robust, right?
Yeah.
But it's, in time, this will very well take legs of its own and become somewhat of a town department. I mean, we can't fool ourselves into thinking that you're not going to have a community center, depending on the programming and activity needs determined by the community. You can't not think that that is going to be of some form or fashion another quasi department.
Sure, it's going to end up being a part of our
Correct.
Parks and Rec or whatever.
So it's logical to keep with the town charter, and this agreement does that.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the MOU with recommended amendments,
And those are,
what I proposed on my
okay.
sheet, unless you want me to read them. all.
Yes, please. We've discussed a lot. Just summarize them if you don't mind. The key points are read it all.
Establish 2 phases for the project. Phase 1 would be where the committee, the proposed committee would research the history and decide how best to present that history in the community center. Phase 2 is where we add 2 additional community members, one from District 1 and District 2. They will recommend to the mayor and council discussions of site layout, community center design, associated cost of running a community center, and programs and activities provided by the community center. And Councilmember Dean Burrell be named chairman of this advisory committee, and the mayor would be a standing member.
Before moving forward, David Gaskell, what would that mean? If this were,
That would set us back because
and
It has to go back to
it has to go
BCI.
back to BCIA.
I've got to
Sure.
tell you, I'm going to be a no on that. I truly am, because we've gone, I don't want to see us take 4 steps backwards. And Jay, I am completely in agreement that there needs to be more or that there needs to be voices heard throughout the entire town. But I stand strong when I say I do not want to go backwards
It's not a
and sit
question of
still
going
for
back.
35 seconds. I'm not saying, and I agree, listen, I'm agreeing with you on those 2, but I'm not agreeing with pause, because I don't have, not that I want control, I don't have control over how the BCIA, or what they're going to say in regards to this. I don't know if this is going to be a hard pass for them, or if it's going to be an okay.
What I proposed is already in the MOU, it's just reworking it a bit. It's
No,
not
I
gonna
hear
go
you.
yet.
I
They
hope
would have
not.
to rewrite it, they would have to re-sign it, but that could be done.
And to your point, Councilmember Nichols, we're 20 years. And
I
we have a
mean-
signed agreement in front of us today that with action, you are moving forward for a project that has been promised time and time again. I mean, it's up to this body, but you have a signed agreement in place in front of you to move the discussion forward.
And we have a motion on the floor.
You will, but it needs a second.
I'm going to second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the MOU with Phase 1 and Phase 2 as outlined by Councilmember Nur, and reworking the formation of the committee. Councilmember Nur's recommendation, Councilmember Green seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I,
So we're split. What happened?
Mayor votes.
I vote in approving against the amendment. All right, we'll take another motion if that.
I make a motion to approve the MOU as it stands.
I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols to approve the MOU. Needs a second.
Second that.
I have a second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 2 and 2. What
I
happened? I vote to approve the MOU. Thank you. Up next is agenda item 7B, which is the appointments of the Community Center Board, Advisory Board. As we noted in our previous discussion, the nominations are for 2 members from the town. Those nominations are for a 3-year term, and they are for appointing Vice President Dean Burrell and Councilmember Nichols to the Burlington Community Center Advisory Board.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Orris,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the appointments of Vice President Burrell and Councilmember Nichols passed unanimously. Thank
So
you.
when is the next meeting of the and the town at Shore? When is the next meeting of the committee?
So that will be scheduled to review these things, and just because the motion, Councilmember Nur, for the amendments did not pass, it doesn't mean that these things are going to be lost. These will be carried forward to the committee. They will be presented. Many of these things have been discussed already, so I don't think it's lost. It's nice to have it on paper. It's nice to have it here, and it's already on their radar, and I think that the work product will follow.
For what it's worth, Jay, I think that there needs to be representation. Again, my hard stop is I don't want to see the pause. I don't want there to be a time where they need, and I'm not saying that the BCIA will do this, but I don't know that they won't. Pause for 6 months, for however long it takes to rethink this and to recalibrate. Because by that time, we are 6 months out. And right now, we are at what month is this? November of 2023. Or is that, what year are we in? I don't even know. But you see where I'm going with this? Like, we talked about this. This MOU was discussed before summer, before it even got hot outside. And we're sitting here in November bringing it to the table. So I don't want to see us here 6 months from now revisiting this when we could have gone to the next phase or whatever it is. And that's just me, and maybe I'm overstepping by saying that, but you know that's par for the course for Shamika Nichols.
But I think also that Councilmember Nur, Councilmember Green, like your hearts are in the right place, I think. Like we're cutting the details here, you know what I mean? Like we're not saying do we want a community center, do we not want a community center? We're saying how do we best want to represent that? And that's okay. But the other side of that is, to Councilmember Nichols' point, we have ourselves here, right? And we do our public business. But the BCIA and Shore Up have membership too. And this is going to them. How many emails did I have to send to get an agreement tonight for you to sign? Like, you know what I mean? Like we've been at this and it's good work and we're getting work done. But
I don't know if this, is that meeting a town-run meeting, or is it, what
it has
is
been.
it?
So it's been informal.
And that's not me saying that they drag their feet. I'm not saying that anybody drags their feet. And I don't want that to be, Steve, here I go. I don't want that to be my soundbite. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, is, I don't want us to be in a place where we've got to stop, dropping things. We don't have time to stop dropping things. Good Lord, if we stop dropping things every few weeks, then we're going to be sitting here until none of us are sitting here. And then what?
Okay. Well, now that it's informal.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I want everybody to know the first draft of that MOU was drafted in 2019. So I think that's to the point.
And what I'm trying to get at here is that if this is, now that it's formal, and there's a formal group that's probably going to take minutes and whatnot.
Correct. Open to the public.
As one of its first items to discuss are Councilmember Nur's recommendations.
We've already said that, yes.
Yes, and I want to make sure that
They're
we're
not
saying
being
again,
lost. You know what I mean?
that
Like
it's
those
on there,
things.
and we figure out a way to get a little bit more representation on the board.
It's open to the public. It can be represented by 5,026 people and the press and whoever else that would like to come.
So
It
is
is
this going to
open.
show up on the website? As
It
a
should,
committee?
yeah.
But do keep in mind, it is an advisory committee, that the town is not, the town is not the driving member on it. By that I mean, it doesn't have 3 council members on it, therefore it's not a meeting of the mayor and council. It's a meeting of the advisory committee.
So I would request that they have that.
That's reasonable.
Certainly, of course,
Immediately.
of course. I just wanted to be clear that it's not,
Right. And I didn't want to,
there's a whole committee driving it, not just the mayor and council.
okay.
All right, up next is agenda item number 8, which is the PJM quarterly report, and our electric utility director, Tim Lawrence, is running point.
Good evening, Council. It's actually mandated that we have to go to this quarterly report in a public setting. What I normally do is I like to compare this quarter to where it was last year. So for July, August, and September of 2022, and the same time period in 2023. For example, in 2022, energy sold was 12,410,509 kWh. In 2023, it was 12,384,944. So you actually see a decrease in the amount of kWh that was sold by the town. The amp bill at this same time last year was 467,748. This year, at same time frame, is 354,312, so you see a decrease. PJM charges, this is one that really stuck out to me. Last year at the same time frame, it was 188,228. Same time frame this year is 523,189. So you see a large increase in PJM charges. PJM ARR credit, we actually had an increase in credit. Last year was 26,000. This year is 52,259. You'll notice on fuel load, oil, and that type of thing for our power plant. Last year, our costs were about $50,091, and this year it increased to $93,896. And we all see that at the gas pumps every time we go to fill our cars up. So, total power cost Last year at this time was $679,977, and this year is $919,141. The difference between the increase that KWH sold from last year to this year was an increase of 0.01942. The PJM charges, the one that really stuck out to me, that increase from 188 to 523, I actually reached out to Booth Associates to get an idea of what actually caused that larger increase. The response back was that the PJM bill has many parts. Some of the big ones are locational reliability, capacity, transmission, AR credits, individual costs, that type of thing. The biggest jump year over year was due to the day-ahead spot market energy charges for the quarter of July through September. This cost increase averaged an increase of $97,255 per month over the year. The first megawatt of energy is no longer purchased from AMP. It is now being purchased on the market at whatever price it is. So it has increased the PJM bill, but it also decreased the AMP bill. The day-ahead transmission congestion losses also increased year over year by an average of $30,000 per month. That's why you're seeing these fluctuations in the quarterly reports and that type of thing. The silver lining to all this is that our rates are actually still lower than Choptank and Delmarva Power both. They're actually seeing these increases too on a larger scale than we are.
Thank you for the report. Any questions for our electric utility director regarding the PJM quarterly report? Is there anything that requires action? It's just a report out.
It's just a report that I have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is the town administrator's report.
I'll be relatively quick. The second annual Glow Walk was held on November 4th. We had a great turnout this year with 80 walkers. Had a great cheerleader, and a great director of traffic. Really turned out very well. People seem to really enjoy the event, and we will continue to do it that way. I did want to touch on a couple of things for Ivy and Dave, who couldn't be here this evening. We did receive the Main Street Improvement Grant for $25,000. This will be used for amenities, benches, and planters on a few areas in the downtown. The Planning Commission meets Wednesday evening. One of the things that they will be discussing is whether or not to make a recommendation to the mayor and council regarding a text amendment to accommodate a request to put a silo for Burley Oak Brewing. So that's something that, depending on the Planning Commission's you may or may not receive a recommendation from them, and then you may choose or not choose to go forward with it. So after the Planning Commission meeting on Wednesday, we'll know more. That's about all that I've got. Thank you.
Since you're reporting for Dave, can I ask if there has been any additional information on Burbage? Well, obviously I've seen the plywood, but on the Burbage building?
To the best of my knowledge, putting the plywood up is the main thing. I do know I was in the room actually when he was having a conversation with one of the members of the staff, and they are having, as so many of us are, difficulties obtaining materials. So they are working with what they have.
But the plywood's over the glass, so we're as secure as we can be at the moment.
At the moment, yes. Actually, I think the glass may have been removed behind the plywood. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
The other thing is, with regard to economic and community development and planning department, they both work together along with some other staff to submit a grant application for the Rails to Trails project. We met with the delegation of District 38, our state level representatives. We pitched the idea, thanked them for their help. We found out that night that we didn't get the grant. So we have the match components for phase 1 and phase 2. So we are going to take a step back, regroup, figure out how to move forward, but just so that everybody's aware of where we stand with that.
Right, literally as that meeting was, that room was emptying out, Ivy texted me to say that we had not gotten the grant.
It's unfortunate, but it's not the end. There is a path
No,
forward,
certainly
so we'll
not.
resubmit and figure out the best way to move forward, maybe as one consolidated pathway. Any questions for our town administrator or regarding the economic development or planning reports? Okay, up next is our electric utility director, Tim Lawrence.
Good evening. My report is over at the power plant. Over the past week, we actually had a company in there doing the transformer testing and the painting of the substation transformers at the power plant. This was done to actually extend the life expectancy of the transformers. They're very expensive. By having this testing done, they filtered the oil and that type of thing, and it actually extends the lifespan of it. Oak Lane, we reconnected a service over there. Cedar Avenue, we had a power outage issue going on over there, and it turned out to be a customer internal issue inside the home. We took down the touch truck banners. We had meter rereads. Assisted Public Works with bulk pickup. We installed the Christmas tree at the Atlantic Hotel, which I think looks very nice. So that's all decorated, and throughout the downtown area, we're installing garland and wreaths and that type of thing, and all the street light poles to get ready for Christmas. And then Decatur Street, we connected a temporary service for a new home that's being built. And then Franklin Avenue, we had to reconnect a service. That's my report.
Thank you. The tree looks great.
Yep.
And thank you to all.
I did neglect to mention
Well,
that.
it's okay. It's in my report too, but I'll say it since we're on the topic. Thank you to all of our staff that came out to help decorate it. Thank you to the electric department for putting up the tree. It really looks awesome. Each year it takes, by the nature of having a real tree, it takes on its own character. So it looks really awesome. So thank you for that. Any questions for our electric utility director, Tim Lawrence?
Well, it's a general question, really. What time is light up?
Tree lighting?
Tree lighting.
Tree
It
lighting.
usually starts,
6:30,
oh,
I think?
I think the event though they close the roads, what, like 4 or 5? But the tree lights around.
I think it's 5 to 9.
Yes.
Ivy's upset with us. She's probably watching right now.
Yeah, hold on, she's probably texting me.
I've said this 100 times, but yeah, so it is
So
available.
it's, okay, I can look it up, but thank you.
Okay.
If
Any
you
other-
text me tomorrow, I'll get it.
Any other questions for our electric utility director? All right, up next is our chief of police, Arnold Down.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
One of the big things we did since we last met is had quite a bit of initiatives for officers, including research for FTO, LEMAC, law enforcement, emergency medical training. And the big thing I want to report on is we did the progress reports for all of our grants, and with community policing over our first 3 months of the year, we got to recoup roughly $4,000 for the events and projects that we actually did. That means National Night Out, Oktoberfest, cruisers, and other different events that actually happened in the first 3 months. And we're also going to go ahead and have some of that going with Halloween. And our friend did not talk enough about Truck or Treat. Tim did a wonderful job. Again, coordinating everyone together, and if you saw the number of families, not just children, we had a lot of big adults coming and saying, can I take stickers home to our kids? We had some of our staff actually put the stickers on the pumpkins, so all the kids knew what to do when they got home. So it was a great time, and even though we had bad weather and we had to change the date, Tim really pivoted in such a way that we really got a bigger bang than we would have otherwise. So again, great job.
I actually think we should move the event to Halloween, that time.
Saturday before Halloween.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
kids were actually walking down, like Main Street in their costumes and stuff. It turned out really nice.
Why do you say this in your report?
I don't know.
And again, Sugar Treat itself was a wonderful time. When you go ahead and speak to people and they say they're actually from Pittsburgh, Roxana, Powellville, Salisbury, Willards, you understand the draw of the actual events. Washington Street did a phenomenal job, and they came back and said thank you to us, and we really appreciate that, but really we're thanking them for providing the service. When Danny King says that he went ahead and gave 1,360 cotton candies out, that just tells you the volume, and I would say it's probably 2,000 plus kids. And again, when I say kids, I'm talking about grown kids and small kids. And we have events that family really come out. We have adult events all the time. But again, to go ahead and really value these events when the community comes together, but really, I mean, the true community, that means the little ones and the big ones. So, again.
Thank you. Any questions for our chief of police?
Well said, Chief. Thanks for serving as crossing guard too.
I will follow up on the tree lighting question. Road closes at 3, tree lighting at 6, CSI Dance Academy 5:45, OC pipes and drums right after tree lighting.
Thank you, and thank you, Kelsey.
More detailed than what I just said.
That's what Ivy said.
And there's supposed to be 36 ice sculptures put out? If I'm not
That I
mistaken?
don't have. Give her a minute and she'll probably
Well,
send
she
it.
asked me, if we have to get cement blocks, Jimmy and I.
Oh, right.
For her, so I think it was like 36.
That sounds about right.
Thank you. Anything to report, Town Attorney David Gaskin?
I'm just wishing for good luck on Thursday. I'm the chair of Worcester County Bar's Thanksgiving Charity Committee. This is our 23rd year. And this year, we provide Thanksgiving dinner to 360 families.
Wow.
And they're all through Worcester County, clients of Worcester County Gold. And we also do needy families at Pocomoke, Snowhill, Buckingham, and Shell Elementary School. Everything's great, except turkeys aren't here yet. Delivery day is Friday. And I was told today that they will be there Thursday. So I need the good luck.
Yeah.
Well, and say again, how long has this been going on?
23 years.
And who started that? I know you're being, you're being,
I did.
yes,
That's
our
great.
town attorney started that.
Nice job.
So, for 23 years. Thank you for that work. We appreciate it.
And wish you luck.
Well, and good luck.
Absolutely.
Anything else to report? Okay. Up next is our finance director, Natalie Sled.
Good evening. We've finished the draft for the fiscal 22 audit with BKS and Company. Had a preliminary meeting, went over the draft. They will be here at 7 o'clock, December the 12th, the first meeting in December, to present the audited financial statements and do the highlights of the fiscal 22. I normally do my financial highlights for first quarter of fiscal 23 in the same meetings last year, and I felt like it was a little too much. So if you all okay, I would push it to the meeting after, because it was just overload of information. We have implemented the water and sewer capital service fees into the billing. Unfortunately, we have to remove the graph from the paper bills. The information does not fit, it shifts it on the second page. We're still working with Tyler, trying to figure it out the way. We might be possibly shifting items or kind of like downsizing the text. So if this happened, the graph will go back. But with that said, I would encourage everybody still signing up for the e-bills. As of right now, we have 300 customers who receive an e-bills, and the process been so far so good. We've received great feedback. There is an advantage of viewing the bill earlier online, have the reminders set up, print your bill by yourself and pay online as well as the other means. The electric energy assistance letter went as a stuffer with this current bills. Just an overview, we started this program in 2009 with the electric department, and we matched dollar for dollar for the contributions that received from the residents of the town of Berlin. up to $10,000. Since 2009, we have distributed over $100,000 back to the community to help the lower income customers for electric assistance. We also met last week with Councilmember Orris to discuss a financial highlights to be posted biannually on the website. So the presentation that I normally do quarterly, the half-year mark and the annual mark would be posted on the website with the reminder in the newsletter with which Mary would update it. We will be working going forward to establish some sort of a report for the budget, but we haven't gotten that far so far. That's, I think, all I have. Yep, thank you. Unless any questions.
Thank you. We talked about the town attorney starting a program, it's the holiday season, to help people with having a Thanksgiving meal. Finance spearheads the electric assistance fund, so thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Any questions for our finance director?
Yeah, I just have one question. Natalie, I received my e-bill today.
Okay.
Thanks, it works great. And in the email, you pointed out a couple of things that are happening, the yard waste collection, blah, blah. Is it possible you could put a link in that email to the pay online system?
I would have to check on that. I don't have an answer. Probably, but we'll have to
That way people
see.
have it right there, they have their bill.
Click here to pay.
Click here to
I'll
pay.
have to contact Tyler. I'm not absolutely sure. It's probably a possibility.
I would think so.
We'll get back to you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for our finance director? All right, up next is our water resources director, Jamie Latcher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The water resources in the last couple of weeks, we started on doing our quarterly lift station cleaning. Broad Street Lift Station had to pull a pump due to disposable wipes, or clean the septic tanks at the wastewater treatment plant, hauled sludge to the landfill, jetted the sewer on Branch Street. New employee began as a wastewater operator. As in Arnold said, assisted Tim with the truck or treat at Steve Decatur Park, meter reading and rereads, collected or monitored well samples at the spray site, and we had an employee attended a wastewater training class at Warwick. Also, on another good news, today I was able to start up well number 3, which has been in the making for about a year. It's not pumping into the system, but we did do a baseline startup out, and we have a bunch of stuff we have to do for MDE, so hopefully within the next 2 weeks we'll complete that. And hopefully the week after Thanksgiving we would be able to put it online and be able to use that as our primary well for a little bit to give the other 2 wells a little break. And Goody Hill is just about done with Washington Street with the storm drain replacement. The structure should be there tomorrow. They will be tearing up a little bit of sidewalk and road on Washington Street to fit that in, and hopefully within the next 2 weeks they'll be completed and out of there, and that will be abandoning the old line too also.
Thank you. Any questions for our water resources director, Jamie Latcher?
Yeah, Jimmy, I just have 2. The first one, I don't really know how to word this, but is there an increase in those not supposed to flush items?
No, it's a sign that usually we clean the lift stations every quarterly, so it means that it's due for a cleaning.
Oh, okay. And then my other question, and I'll rephrase it since I usually ask, are we still waiting for the information from DBF for the Broad Street lift station?
We had the survey in. They had to get up with Dave about the setbacks and all the stuff on that. I'm not for sure if we have to go in front of the Board of Zoning and Appeals, because that property is only 35 foot wide, so their lift station is going to be, Dave has some setbacks, so we might have to go in front of them to get exemption. So we're still working through some of that, the technicality stuff, I think, with Dave Engelhardt and some of the other stuff on that, and we're still getting our load letters together for Tim so we can get his stuff ordered with the transformers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for our water resources director? Okay, up next is our public works director, Jimmy Charles.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
At Touch a Truck, we were handing out how to place your trash can properly to the curb, and we were handing out stress balls. So I just want to say thank you to Kate for helping me design that, well, she designed it more than I did. The paper we had that showed pictures of how to place it in proper ways. So, we finished adding sodding to the Stephen DeCate walking path, and soil and dirt. We put some grass seed in it, and we'll just keep monitoring it for settlement around the edges so there's no drop off, so we shouldn't see anybody possibly getting injured there. Walk pickup was on 11/2. We had 68 stops, 3 tons of trash, and 3/4 of a ton of metal. The bulk pickup went smooth, and then this Wednesday is the second round of bulk pickup, and we'll be in the Buckingham area for that side. Continuing trash and recycling collection, normal grass cutting is going on, parking and maintenance. State Highway installed the X at Flower Street and Bay Street, and they do not block the intersection sign. They also added 2 crossbars at Decatur Park entrance there too, which were there before the paving was done. And
Before the what?
Paving.
Dude, I thought you said
No, I thought you did
too. What paving?
And then the only thing I have is Councilman Green can come with that bright orange safety vest and flashlight to help with the parade. Volunteers.
Did anybody take a picture?
It's on Facebook.
Oh, I need to check that out.
And we need a copy of that.
I take it seriously, you know.
It is,
these things.
very seriously.
I will say, ending the pack, I did notice him more than I noticed other people besides Shanika's
I was about to
loud
say.
voice
Yeah,
with her,
everybody talked
her
about
daughters.
Shanika.
They were cheering me on like a mile down the street. I was like, how'd you even see me? I can't see you. So,
What is it? Commissioner Fiore and his wife, they were like, wait a minute, are you just doing this right? No, we're out here for everything.
Just you.
This is, she was like, what are you doing?
Jimmy, do you want to touch on State Highway and Main Street, Jimmy James?
We talked with John from the, everything seems to be going to plan.
I talked to John this morning also, and he said that they'll be, I've been calling him every day, trust me.
He's been very good about stopping in pretty much every day.
He's been doing well. State Highway, as a rule, has been very helpful. But they're expecting to move forward with paving on Thursday. And every day I ask, you still on track for before Thanksgiving? He said yes. So I think
We did have one hiccup today. We had a water leak on Main Street, so we fixed that because I didn't want to be the holdup for the whole project.
thank you for that.
We did have a leak the day we fixed on Main.
Thank you. So yes, SHA, hopefully we're still moving forward. That's fine. I asked for a revised paving schedule, so we'll see when that comes. I'll share it with everybody. But hopefully we're still on track. Any other questions for our Public Works Director, Jimmy Charles? Okay. Up next is our Human Resources Director, Kelsey Jensen.
I just want to say I was crawling around down here because apparently you guys didn't see it on your screen, but our screen wasn't working. For
Yeah, they were fine up here.
Yeah, I checked that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'll start with Mary and I attended the Legit annual meeting in Annapolis on November 3rd. It was very informative. One of the things that we discussed was First Amendment audits, which is something that a lot of municipalities are seeing. If you Google it, you will find plenty of videos about it. But thankfully, Lieutenant Lawson has offered to conduct a training for our employees and just kind of go over, what something like that might entail. And again, that's called a First Amendment audit. So we're working on a date to set that up. But another thing, I sent out something about United Way. We are doing our annual forms for contributions. We only have 4 employees that contribute, and those 4 employees do bring in about $1,000 in a year. I just want to state that if every employee did $1, we would add an additional about $2,000 to that total. So it's something to consider if you guys are willing to do that. But I do have those forms available for pickup. You can complete them. And, we'd like to have them back by December 1st. There's a little leeway on that though. But a couple current vacancies we have, and sorry I talk about these every meeting, but I just like to get it out there that we still have some vacancies. We have the Mayor's Assistant and Public Information Officer position. We have an electric line apprentice position. We still have some police officer vacancies, but we did interview 3 the other day, which I thought all went well. We are still waiting on police communication officers. We haven't had any interest in that. Spray site operator, we do have an interview scheduled this Thursday. So those are the positions we still have vacant. And then I do want to second the truck or treat. I thought that went really well. We attended it, and there was a lot of people there, and I thought it would be a good thing to move that maybe to that weekend as well. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention was just thank you for closing Town Hall at 1 on Thursday. It was nice to all get together and decorate the tree. That's the first time we've done that since I've been here. I thought it was really nice. It kind of, made everyone get in the holiday spirit a little bit. So thank you. But that's it.
Mary and I had both discussed that, so that was a joint effort. Thank you.
Are the open positions open until filled, or is there a date?
We were putting deadlines on them, but we've received so few applications that most of them I changed to open until filled. The mayor's position, the mayor's assistant position, and public information officer, that is open until filled. The electric line apprentice, I believe we're just running that one through the end of the month. I think I put that date on there, and if I didn't, I can correct that. But the police officers, police communications officers, those are kind of things we're always looking for. And then the spray site operator, I do believe I put open until filled because that's one that we don't typically get too much interest in. So hopefully the interview on Thursday goes well, and maybe we'll have a person there. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Human Resources Director? All right, up next is our Administrative Assistant, Steve Dodd. Okay, and your report. All right, we'll move on to comments from the council. We'll start with Councilmember Jay Knight.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Councilmember Nichols.
Good luck, Gaskell, on your turkey. Are you listening to me?
No, he wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good luck on your turkeys. If you had told me sooner, we got a whole family full of them in my backyard. We could have worked together to get you some.
I need 306.
Well, I don't know about all that.
I ordered them in September. They
Wow.
just haven't gotten here yet.
Well, keep us
Right.
posted. We hope you do get them in
who
time.
do turkeys
I know
too?
that you
They're part of
definitely have, you have a good
They
cause.
are.
You'll hear it if they don't show up.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
I thought that the tree lighting or the tree trimming idea, that was phenomenal. That camaraderie, that coming together as an entity, I thought that was, kudos to you guys for coming up with such an idea, and the pictures look really great. So that was, keep it up, fellas, ladies. Mary, as far as the glow walk goes, I feel like I need more next year.
Oh,
I need more
pom-poms.
something, because some people even ask me during the week, what were you doing on the phone? Are you okay?
I saw you yelling
I didn't know if you needed some help. And I was like, no, I was cheering people on. And one guy was like, I live down the street and you were like there. I didn't know, didn't see your car, thought something was wrong.
Maybe vests, pink, bright, hot pink,
I mean,
reflective vests.
This guy had, I didn't know he had vests on, because if that was the case, we would have upped our game.
That was his
I'm
personal
saying, I would put my
account.
blinker
Yeah.
lights and all kinds of things.
Gotta go hard.
But it was a great event. It was phenomenal. My girls even said, wow, there were more people today.
Yeah, there was
Mind
a
you, they
lot
were-
of people.
They were in clusters, but there were a lot more people out there, so that was exciting. It was a great turnout.
It was. It was a beautiful night for it, so
Yeah.
it helped.
I mean, Jim and Charles talking about cutting grass. Who cuts grass in November?
Right?
Who
We are
cuts
still
grass?
growing grass.
Your lighted codes.
Who cuts grass in November? Or has their air conditioning on until yesterday?
Exactly.
So, I mean, guys and girls, enjoy the holiday season. I guess it's among us. Happy Thanksgiving. Will we see each other before
Yes.
Thanksgiving?
No,
No, we won't.
Just after
It's like
Thanksgiving.
the 27th or 8th.
I included
14 days.
that. Happy Thanksgiving, yes.
On behalf of all of us.
Well, that won't be happening.
Okay.
You're on your own.
Maybe Jack will help us out.
Oh, well, on behalf of the mayor and council, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, my God. Already hurt. Stop it.
Just real quick, I know I said all the time, but anyway, one thing I forgot, Mary, for Dave, if he could provide either via email or his next report, an update on the short-term rentals.
For Dave.
For Dave Engler, yeah. Applications received, approved, where we are on that, any type of enforcement concerns, if you would mind relating to them, please. And then Natalie, thank you for bringing it up. I met with Natalie and Mary to talk about the snapshot for the budget.
I would quote in.
And
Sorry.
that's because what I
Why
refer
would
to.
quote
It's a snapshot.
It is snapshot.
It's a snapshot of the budget, and we are also in development of a kind of a citizens report, but we're working on that through the next budget cycle. And then I did email the group just to ask to think about this. I think it's probably worthy of a little bit more discussion, maybe not tonight. But last year we did I think it was because of the POW MIA flags at the memorial. They're all arrested in Maine. And I was just inquiring if it's possible to look into, not a huge event, I'm not saying a parade, but just some sort of, kind of like doing that every year, maybe like a half hour, an hour.
Something similar to what they do for Memorial Day. Similar.
I think it was something smaller last year. It was more of a flag raise
Yeah,
with
it was
people
a-
present. We were planning the same thing, but my former assistant, Joanne Unger, coordinates that.
Oh, okay.
And since she had retired, she was allowed to do that, right? Those things, yes. This year, it did not work out.
Yeah, so if it's something we could just, nothing major, get some honor guards and whatnot, I think it's an important little thing, not to compete with Ocean Pines, of course, but.
Yeah, we did
can
ours in
do our
the
own
morning.
thing, yeah.
We did ours in the morning. It didn't compete with the 11 o'clock service for Ocean Pines. But yeah, it was a good time, not this year, but last year. And
I'd like to see if we can do that. And that's all I have.
thank you. Up next is Councilmember Ruby.
All right, one thing, I'm sorry. I know
Hopefully
that's
it's
right.
short.
Don't
It's not
apologize.
great.
Thanks to Public Works Director, I met with him. Chief, thank you for having me. And on Friday, I actually spent some time with the fire company because I wanted to follow up on a matter that Mr. Walsh, you might remember him from the last meeting, he had some pointed comments for us all and some things I wanted to dive deeper into. And it was one of these things that came up at the meeting that there was a reference to a letter from Joe Moore, and I took a deep dive on that and found out that it's something I think that we may need to look into, and I'll throw it to Dave. The letter, and I have not seen that, but my understanding
You should
is,
have that, because you asked for it, and I sent it.
We don't.
There were two things that you sent me, and I thought I had sent that to the group. My apologies. I thought everybody had
okay,
it.
so we didn't, but
Wish I had said
so you'll correct me if I'm wrong there, but my understanding is the content of the letter is that, the claim that the town is in breach of the contracts between fire and fire EMS services. So it appears that, it's in the contract, but that it's clear, and we all know it's very important to the fire company that the two corporations be cited specifically. And it's my understanding, and I have it here, it's in the budget, it is not, it's listed as fire EMS operating allocation, and then later it says fire EMS allocation. So my hope is, I don't know how quick a fix this can be or easy a fix this can be. Obviously, the budget has been approved as ordinance. But it's very important for us to get those financials the fire company has. And I think it's important to accountability, as Mr. Walsh was talking about last week. We need to see the accountability of the numbers that they are performing the financial services. And it's my understanding that those will not be released to us until this alleged breach is addressed. It does in the contract, and I think my understanding of it is that the contract is August. It was ratified in August. The budget's ratified prior to that.
No, we had passed the budget and allocated, just say $400,000. The contract was ratified afterwards.
Which is at that point when the specific allocations are.
And those allocations are decided by them.
Yeah.
So what, I think the long and short of it is, if we do a budget amendment, just to separate the number that was given to BFC and the number that was given to EMS we'll get those financials.
Well, hold on one second too, and I apologize, I thought everybody had those copies. Can you forward them to the group, because I thought that I did, but apparently I didn't. And do you want me to do it? We talked
Yeah,
earlier.
I don't know if
I'll do it. If you don't get it by tomorrow, please let me know, because I thought I did that. It's 2 emails. The first one, we had to ask for clarification, because none of us knew what they were talking about. And then the second is that, to your point about the grouping of those funds, each year before the budget's introduced, I've asked President Fitzgerald, because they determine that allocation. We say, this is what we have that we're able to give, and they determine the allocation to fire and to EMS. And each year I've asked for that before introduction, and I don't get it before introduction, or I get numbers that don't equal 400,000, or the number that we have allocated. So I think there's a little bit more to the story, but
Yeah,
we
I
need to
understand.
figure out how we get
Yeah.
the finances.
Certainly ideally, but,
And Natalie can
I-
even speak to,
The allocation in the system is two different companies. They both have two different federal ID numbers. So when the checks are issued, the funds allocated to Berlin Fire Company and EMS Services separately in our system. I also file an annual report every single year to Worcester County, reporting of the distribution of all the funds per company allocation. So the budget amendment does not need to be stated. If we need to post something on the website as decided by the fire company, how much they received and how much the EMS received, that's a simple step. I don't foresee necessarily separating those findings on the budget, because that's their solo decision. We don't have here. Budget, we decide. They decide how much they allocate to the fire company and how much to emergency services.
But I get that.
The issue of the
It's-
contract that they want it.
all
separated.
public records have to have it separated, and we signed the contract. That's all my point is.
The contracts are public records, they are on the website, and they do indicate the exact allocations. But the allocation information came to us too late for it to be incorporated into the actual budget.
and that's a very clear deadline that's communicated to them every year.
I get it, we want those financials.
Yeah, I
It's important for us.
understand that, but
So how do we get there?
well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. So our website has the fire department link, it routes to their website, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we put a landing page there that says, this is the allocation that we've given, and go back as far as you want to go back? But make it clear that they're two separate entities,
Mhm.
and that the fire company and EMS, they say how much goes where, and if they want it public, we'll put it right there. That's not.
Yeah, that's all, I'm not.
But I don't think it needs to be a budget amendment. If they want it in the budget, they know the deadline to do that.
Yeah, I didn't say that word,
So-
budget amendment. I just want to try to get those financials cleared up, that's
Yeah, I
all.
mean, we all want the same
That's all.
thing.
Yeah, so that's all. I mean, I was really looking at a mechanism
I
in
spoke
place.
to Joe Moore after the last meeting, and the issue is, I mean, we were talking about the new fees that the fire company is trying to charge folks. And they were upset that at that meeting, you said we gave them $400,000. When in fact, as it turned out, it's not through anyone's fault, at least, they only got $182,000.
Well,
Or just for the public
fire
record.
side.
Between the two organizations, they got
I know,
400,000.
I know, but we were talking about the fees that the fire company has instituted. They took issue with the fact that it was publicly stated that they got $400,000, where the fire side only got 182. That's.
And the
that
town's
upset.
the town's not trying to conceal how much we give. We give a $400,000 grant, and we ask how the fire company wants that split between fire and EMS. They make that determination. And in addition to that allocation, this year we did fund, so time and time again,
Yeah.
$125,000 for staff, $220,000 for fire capital, and 46.5 something in EMS capital. Like more, we're giving more.
Yes.
So I think
That's
that
truly-
we
really-
want to be transparent, we
Yeah.
want to abide by our agreement, but there are certain things in place too.
Right.
So I thank you for
Certainly.
reporting,
Certainly moving forward in the spring, definitely would be great. We need to get those allocations.
and I apologize for not forwarding that.
That's
I
okay.
thought that I did.
For now, please don't take offense to this. I just.
No,
I wanted
absolutely
to-
not, but it's just, the misstatement comes across that we do decision on allocation. We do not.
Oh, absolutely clear, yeah. No, if I misrepresented that, I know that very well. But I just want us to get the train back on the tracks as far as getting these reports. We almost didn't have the conversation, last week, and I want us to try to do that. So look, I think your recommendation of the landing page.
Yeah, I think it's great. That
yeah,
way
that
it's
might be-
transparent, it's right there, it's on the forefront, it's not opaque.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? What's the score of soccer?
Can't get my phone up here, right? My son's playing in a soccer game in Richmond right now, but
Well, we'll move on to
sure
comments.
it's going well.
I hope so. We'll move on to comments from there. We talked about SHA and paving, talked about the town Christmas tree. I do want to say we have 4 public schools. We have 1 private school. I know it's more of a public school driven thing, but it's American Education Week. So if you encounter a teacher, thank them for what they do. And that's all I have. Happy Thanksgiving on behalf of the American since my colleague to my left won't vote.
I feel like that.
Up next, up next are comments from the public. Do we have any? All right. Up next, any comments from the press? Okay. Vice President Burrell would like somebody.
Motion to
I need a second. Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Nur, second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Mayor, I do want you to sign the special Sunday permits. The rest of them.
Once you go to night,
Good?
Yeah, you might as well take those and
I want to make,
Do I sign the top? Right here.
well, the one that is time sensitive.
oh, it's the BCIA.
Well, PCIA, I need the LC for Greg Patrick.
What gets you there?
Tri-County Council.
Oh,
You need
I was
somebody.
there. Our whole family was there. We were crossing at the crosswalk and you told me.
I'll let him know that, even if we have to fight for it.
Yes, we were there. Well, you know what? This was the quickest